you know, we just never react like that. You know, I'd never come to your house on a one-to-one basis, and if you said, no, I don't want to contribute to your favorite charity, I'd never pull a gun, point it at you, and take your money at gunpoint. I mean, we think that whole concept's ridiculous.
Well, that would
But
be theft, right? I mean, that's
it would be.
if you showed up at my house with a gun and you said, Jim, you know, I need $20 to help Richard out over there because he's kind of hungry, and you pulled the gun on me, and I, you know, gave you the $20, I'd be right to be pretty upset, wouldn't I?
Well, right. Not only would you be upset when you had a favorite charity, you'd feel like doing the same thing to me. You'd come over if you hadn't already gotten the police on me. You'd come over, and if I didn't give you $20 for your favorite charity, you'd pull a gun on me.
Well,
and
yeah.
you know, we'd have bad feelings, right? We'd be feuding. It'd be a very unhappy situation, and we'd both spend a lot of time trying to defend ourselves against the other.
But wouldn't it be okay if I didn't have the gun and I robbed? You know, if I was robbing Jim, if I had a friend who had the gun, would that be okay?
Well, you have to ask yourself if instead of me coming to your house with a gun to rob you, I go and gather up the majority of my neighbors and come to you and say, okay, you know, hand over your money. Do you feel any less stolen from?
No, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, well,
a lot of people think that they're not stealing if they ask government to do it.
That's right, because instead of getting the majority of our neighbors, what we do is we hire a thug, basically. We hire somebody, we call them the government, to go and take your money. And, of course, most people give it up willingly because they know that if they don't give it up, you know, if they don't pay the IRS, that the government's going to come out with guns and, you know, take their home or take their money or whatever it is. And so, you know, there's a feeling of distance here. In other words, you don't see your neighbors, the majority of the neighbors, you know, gathering up and taking your money. What you see is the government agent. Now, it's very easy then to blame the government for taking your money rather than the majority of your neighbors. But because they're taking your money, when you have a pet project, you're going to go to the polls and you're going to vote to take their money. And, you know, we take turns being victims and aggressors, majorities and minorities. You know, we go back and forth, and we waste a lot of money. You know, it costs us about 50% to have this little battle just right off the top. So, and of course, we don't have good feelings about each other. The poor don't like the rich, and, you know, the welfare recipients are looked on askance by, you know, those who have to pay the taxes for them, and there's all kinds of interplay going on that's very negative. You know, that's what happens when we don't honor our neighbor's choice. And that's really, again, what libertarianism is all about. This is what we were taught as children. You know, if we are playing with our playmate, we don't hit them, we don't steal from them, we don't lie to them. And if we do one of these things, if we grab one of their toys and break it, for example, you know, we have to restore it. That's what we used to have to do. If you put a baseball through your neighbor's window, you have to pay for it out of your allowance. We all remember these lessons, and they teach us how to really relate well with people one-to-one. But somehow we think if we do it differently as a group, it's going to give us peaceful results, and it just doesn't work that way.
Is there comfort in numbers? Because I always ask the question to someone who argues that taxation is justified, and I always say, you know, eventually you're basically asking for someone to come to my house. Let's say I'm the one who refuses to pay. Come to my house with a gun and tell me I'm going to pay or else. And I said, are you comfortable? I always ask the question, are you comfortable with knowing that you're basically sending someone, an agent of yours, to my house with a gun to force me to pay? And they never can answer that question because I personalize it to me. But if you phrase it in kind of a group speak, well, you know, there's some people that don't pay their taxes. Oh, we should get the money from them. It always amazes me that they won't go to that step and say, yes, I'm comfortable with having the person come to your house with a gun, hold it to your head, and make you empty your pocket. They won't go to that step.
No, because I think most people recognize that this is a form of aggression that is counterproductive. And, you know, even, you know, there's just a gut feeling that that's wrong. We know it. And I think that's why government has been successful, is because they disguise that. It's very disguised. You know, we don't recognize it because it's the government agent.
Yeah.
And we don't see ourselves doing it.
Right. Yeah, they withhold funds from our paycheck, and so it's not something direct where someone's coming up to us all the time and saying, hand me a wad of cash every week out of your paycheck. It just kind of disappears and we don't notice it,
That's
supposedly.
Right. Right, and we call it a different name. You see, if we said, instead of calling it taxes, we called it thievery, or if we called it what does the mafia call it when they come and they
Protection money?
Yeah, protection money.
protection money. That's it. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for and wasn't remembering. Yes. So if we called it protection money or something like that, I think we'd think very differently about it. But that's the power of language, is in changing our perception of what's actually happening. The act is identical,
Well,
but where our perception is different because of the word.
okay, we'd like to go to the phones. We've got a caller, Corky in Tempe, has a question for you. Corky, welcome to the Libertarian Solution. Are you there, Corky? No, doesn't. Somehow I lost you. Mary, are you still there?
I'm here.
All right, thank you. We lost the caller somehow. So anyway, if someone was interested in reading your book, Healing Our World, which I can go through the chapters and look, you've got information about jobs, small businesses, health,
environment,
environments there, banking, education. It's all there. Where would someone go to get a copy of Healing Our World?
Well, there's several places. Obviously, they can get it at Amazon. If they want to read the 92 version for free first, they can go to my website at ruwart.com, RUWART.com. That's RUWART.com. And they can download the 92 version free. And then they can decide if they want the greatly updated 2003 version.
Okay, sounds good then. Looks like we've got our caller back. Let's try this one more time. Corky, are you there?
Yes, I didn't get cut off. Yeah, I'm willing to give you guys the benefit of the doubt here. Why don't we form a coalition government between you libertarians and us Greens, and we'll see, and we'll lower the taxes because we'll stop the wars and aggressions and everything, and we'll see if the people take this extra money in their pockets and give it to charities. And if not, then we'll have to try the gun solution.
Well,
no, I think is great. That's one of the things. I'm a scientist by profession, Corky, so I really appreciate your willingness to experiment here. And one of the things that we do agree on, of course, is the war. And we both predict that if the war ends, we're going to have more prosperity in the country. And I think I think it's pretty obvious that when a person's more prosperous, they can help their neighbors more, and I think they would. Of course, again, if we really want to do a good job here and not have to repeat experiments that people have already done, we can look at the literature and we can see what happens. And that's why I wrote Healing Our World, because I got together really hundreds of examples of how liberty actually works in the real world, because that's the only world that counts, not in our minds, your mind or my mind. We want it to work in the real world. And so I put those together and, put the story together so, it would be easy to comprehend. And so I invite you to, check that out too. And if you have questions, there's my email's right there on the website for you to inquire. And that way, when we get together and have a coalition, we'll have a coalition where we've utilized all this information and we don't have to wait and see on some of this. And then the stuff we do have to wait and see on, we can take it to a better place, and then we can talk about what we need to do next. I think that's a great idea.
Well, Corky, thank you so much for the call. And Dr. Mary Ruwart, we wanted to thank you for being a guest on our show today. We do have to head out to a quick break. Thank you so much, and we hope to have you on soon in the future.
Yes, please give me a call, and it's been a delight being with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, we're going to head out to a quick break here on the Libertarian Solution. Don't forget to call in at 480-949-1310 if you have any questions, and you can visit our website at libertariansolution.com.